Hi, I'm Michael, and if you've attended any of our CH50 Accounts webinars before, you might recognise my voice. Throughout March, we're running our next Digital Badge webinar series. This series helps you to get to grips with invoicing, improves your knowledge, and boosts your confidence when using CH50 accounts. There are 6 different topics, each one being run twice so that you have the opportunity to attend. Sessions include the creation of product invoices and processing credit notes. We'll demonstrate how to add your company logo and your bank details to your invoices, so they not only look the part, but also help you to get paid. There's also more advanced topics such as understanding the discount options that are available. Attend any 5 of the 6 topics, plus one of our quiz sessions to test your knowledge, and you'll earn your digital badge. To check the topics, dates and times, and to register for your free place, head along to sage.co.uk/webinars. I hope to see you there.
Hi everybody. If you're looking to streamline your day-to-day bookkeeping and keep your accounts accurate with less manual work, now is the perfect time to get familiar with bank feeds in Sage 50 accounts. We're running a 2-part webinar series that will guide you through everything you need to know, from getting set up to confidently managing your reconciliations. In part 1, we'll focus on the essentials to get you up and running with bank feeds. We'll walk you through connecting your bank to Sage 50 accounts. Following that, we'll look at how to use the auto match option, which saves you time, and learn how Sage automatically matches your transactions. We'll then move on to manually matching transactions and show you how to create Sage transactions directly from the bank feeds window based on your imported transactions from your bank without needing to leave the bank feeds window. This keeps your workflow fast, tidy, and all in one place. We'll explain how to review your approved match transactions and exactly what to look out for and how to keep everything accurate. We'll complete part 1 by demonstrating how bank feeds integrate into your reconciliation process. Part 2 covers creating and setting up rules. These are used to automatically process transactions as they download from your bank. You can create up to 300 rules for each bank account, so this can be a great time saver and where bank feeds really comes into its own. These are sessions all about giving you confidence while saving you time and keeping your accounts up to date with less effort. Join us live where we'll be hosting both webinars with demonstrations and practical guidance throughout. Don't miss this opportunity to make your bank reconciliation faster, smarter and easier. Reserve your place today at sage.co.uk/webinars, and we look forward to seeing you there. Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's well today. Welcome to the webinar. Today, we're going to be having a look at the company archive and why you should take one, and also what it's used for and how it's different from your usual daily backups as well. I'm Laura. If you've not heard me before, I'm going to be hosting the webinar today for you. It's just myself today, so I will try and keep on top of any questions and I'll prioritise the ones on today's topic. But do pop them across there. As anything I can't get answered on the live webinar, I'll send you an email after it's finished there. Sometimes we just need a bit more information, or if we've got anything that we can send over to you, which we think might be helpful as well. But do pop them in there. Like I say, anything I don't get answered, I'll get in touch with you just after the webinar there. So just as usual, before we get started, just those housekeeping rules. So you'll notice that your mic is muted automatically, but you'll see there is a little question icon on the toolbar where you can submit any questions that you may have on there. I'll be including the slides as well in the handout section, as there are links at the end which you might find useful. So if you do want to download those, make sure you do that during the session there. And there's also that printer friendly version if you'd like to make notes as well. So today we're going to be covering the company archive and when and why you would take one, and also how and why it's different from the backup as well. I'm going to go through some demonstrations too in my system there. We're going to have a look at taking the archive and how you can access it, and also look at the main differences between things like the backup and the clear audit trail as well, because sometimes people can get a bit mixed up with what it actually does when you take the archive. Some people think that it clears data out of the program, and that's not what the archive does. The archive mainly takes a snapshot of all of your data. So like I say, what is an archive? So it's a read-only copy of your data, like I mentioned there. It just appears in the program at that point in time. So if I took an archive now, it would take a screenshot of absolutely everything I've got in my program from the point of when I first started the company right up until the point I'm taking the archive. It includes things like your existing logon details as well. So this means in a year's time, if you wanted to access the archive, you'd need to log on to the archive using the credentials you have at the time of taking that archive. But don't worry if you think, well, I've got archives from a few years ago. I've got no idea what the logon details were for back then. If you get in touch with our technical support team, just give them a call. We can help you with that. We can get that retrieved for you. Read only just means that you can't add any new information or edit or delete the transactions, but you can remove certain information for GDPR purposes. But just know anything you change in the archive, it doesn't update in the live data and vice versa. So they're completely separate. When you take an archive, it's saved within your data path, making it easy to access from within your Sage 50 accounts. And to access your archive, you don't need to restore anything like you would do with a backup. Instead, you get instant access to revisit that historical data, things like your figures, and you can run reports. It's a bit like going into another company. Just be aware that attachments are not included in an archive. You need to have access rights to create an archive as well. So the manager logon has this by default, but other users may need to have access rights if it's been sort of deselected when your username was set up. And we'll have a look at that in the demonstration too. And there is sometimes the misconception that archiving the company will remove data. But like I said before, that's not the case. It doesn't delete anything. It just takes a screenshot basically of everything that you've got in your company at that time. One thing to note is that archives don't sync over remote data access. So if you're connected remotely, so using remote data access to another user, and you take the archive, they won't be able to see it. However, if they want to access it, it's easily done on there. You can take a backup just of the archive only, so not including data or anything like that, and they can restore it into their 50 accounts there. It means that they can then view it, and I'll show you how to do that in the demonstration too. And lastly, you would just need to have access to Sage 50 account software to be able to access your archive. So when might you take an archive? So you can take an archive at any point in time. There's no limit on how many times you can take one, but we always strongly recommend to take one prior to running things like your year-end process and anytime you run a clear audit trail as well. So you might run a clear audit trail straight after running your year end. And if you've already taken your archive just before running the year end, you wouldn't need to take another one. But if you say you were to run your clear audit trail where you'd removed all transactions and you do this in the middle of the year, I would take an archive before and a backup as well. I've attached links to the webinars on there which cover both the topics. So we've got one for running your year end and also clearing the audit trail. We've been covering those recently. We're covering year end again next week, I think it is as well. So that's just on our sign up page too, which the link will be on the slides a bit further on there. But I'm going to pop into my program and we're going to have a look at the demonstration there now. So I'll just bring up my system. Just get into my 50 accounts there. So as we've looked at on the slides there, you might take an archive at the year end or before you're running a clear audit trail or just before you're making any significant data changes like removing old records. And you can find the archive option in two places. So the first one is in Tools at the top, and then we're going to go into Period End, and then we've got Archive Company. And if you can't see this, so if you can't see this option, if you're looking at yours thinking, well, I haven't got archive company option there, what you can do is you can get, I'll show you how to do it later on, but your manager username will be able to give you access to that. It'll just be an access limitation that you've got on your username. But I'm logged in as manager at the moment, so I'm just going to click on archive company there, and that'll bring this over. So this is our archive screen on here. So you can see here the path to the archive, that's grayed out. So you can't change the path to the archive on there, although the location where it saves to. That's just because it saves alongside your company data. But you can change the description. So I can leave it as mid-year 2025 if I wanted to, because I'm in my financial year, January 25 to December 25. So say I just run the clear audit trail, I could say, or I'm going to run my clear audit trail, I could say before the clear audit trail, and we'll pop a space in there as well between the word year and before. So mid-year before clear audit trail 2025. And I can change the folder name if I want to as well, but I'm just going to leave that the same. And then I'm just going to say OK to that, and it's going to take that archive. And if you'll blink, you'll miss it because it runs quick on my system there because I've got a small data set and it's local. But the process of actually taking an archive, it doesn't take a great deal of time. It's not like taking a backup where you can see the files moving along if you've got a lot of data. It's very quick on there. So you can see that's been done straight away for me. And that purpose of the archive is to take that snapshot of the data from the very start of my company up until where it's 8 minutes past 11 today on the 25th of February. So it's taken absolutely everything I've got in there now. So if you were then to clear out your audit trail or clear out old records, you can always refer back to these in the archive. Along with if you were being audited, you have all the data in there. And you might think, well, I can do that with a backup. And you can do that with a backup. There's no problem with using a backup for that. But the difference with a backup is that you would need to sit and wait while that restores in. If there's more than just you logged in as well, everybody else would need to get logged out while you restore the data in, and that would restore it for everybody as well. Plus, if you're on a network setup, so if your data is held on a server, that can take longer as well because you're trying to pull that data over from the server. You do have the option, obviously, if you're a multi-company license, you could restore a backup into a new company, or depending on the version that you're on, you could restore a backup into the practice data. But again, you're going to need to sit and wait while that restores it. Now, if I wanted to restore that back, it's going to take a while. But to go into my company archive, I can just click File at the top, go to Open, and I can go to Open Company, or just Company Archive, it says on there. Now, again, if you don't have that, it'll be your user settings, and I will come on to that in a bit. But I'm going to click that, and it gives me a list of all the archives on here. So you can see I've taken a few recently because I've run this session quite a few times now. But this is the one that I've run today, 25th of February, mid-year, before running my clear audit trail. I can just click Open to that, and it'll get me just to log on with my logon details at the time that archive was taken. I'm just going to pop in my details on there. And that's us into the archive. And you'll see along the top here, I've got archive. It tells me which archive I'm in. So I know I'm not in the live data now. I'm in the archive data. So that's one way of knowing which set of data that you're in there. But if you think of how quick it would be if you had to restore a backup into there, it's going to take a little while to get that done. Again, don't worry if you think, "Oh, I can't remember what my passwords were." Our technical support guys, they can help you with that. So there's no issue there if you do think, well, I don't know what that was. Get in touch with our technical support and they can give you a hand to have a look at it. So you are limited to changes that can be made within your archive. So as I said before, it's just for GDPR purposes. So you can't post anything new. And it's like I mentioned before, it's worth noting anything you put into or change in the archive won't amend in your live data either. So if I went into bank accounts and thought I'm gonna pop in, I'm gonna post a bank payment on here, it tells us straight away that it's a company archive and it's in read-only mode. It says the option is not available when working with an archive data set or it's in read-only mode. So I can't actually I can't post any bank payments, so it prevents me from doing that on there. Okay, so you can't actually go and post anything. You can run reports though. So if I go into nominal codes, and I'm going to go to, I'm not sure what that message is on there. I think that was when I was saving a document earlier on. So I'll just click that off there. I've just noticed that was there. So if I wanted to run a management report for a prior year, so say I've run my year end a couple of years ago and I think, actually, I just need to run my profit and loss for that year, you can come into the archive, just like we've done here, click on profit and loss. You'll get the usual screen where it'll tell you you can preview it, print, save it, or you can send it via email. I'm just going to preview it just to show you. I'll leave all the criteria the same. I remember this is a mid-year one, so this is not my year end, so I'll have figures in here and I'll just make this a bit bigger so you can see it. And it tells us when we run it from an archive, it lets us know which archive it's been ran from as well. So you can run your management reports just from an archive on there. So if you've run your year end, it's a couple of years ago, you need those management reports, you can pop into your archive and you can run them. So it just means that you've got access to them again on there. That's always quite a handy one to be able to do on there. What I will have a look at as well, if we go into customers, just to show you. So if I go down and I'm just going to pick this top one, A1 Designs on here. If I open this up, just going to double click on it to open it, and I'm going to change it just to the name. I'll just change it to Dave on there, standard name Dave. I'm going to save that and it will let me save it for GDPR purposes. And you can see there, we've got that now changed, okay? Now I'm going to pop back into my live data just to show you that when you make changes in here, it doesn't affect your live data. So to go back to your live data, we're just going to go to File at the top, Open, and we're going to go back into our Open Company data. Just going to click on that, just lets us know it's going to close all those open windows, that standard message that you get popped up there. And then we'll just log back in. So this is us logging back into our live data there. There we go. So now we're in our live data. If you look along the top now, we don't have that archive message at the top. So I'm back in my live data. So there's no archive message at the top. If I click on customers, you'll see the top one that I changed to Dave is now shown as A1 Design Services. So it hasn't changed anything in my live data. So if you make any amendments in your archive and vice versa, so if I changed anything in here, it won't impact that archive there. So there's I can see a question there from Addy just asking about archiving. Is it advised before or after you roll your year end or run your year end? You would run your archive before running your year end there. So it comes up in the year end process or part of the year end process. So if I go to tools at the top, just to quickly show you period end. And if you were going to be running your year end, and I'm covering this next week, we are running through a year end webinar next week, but it comes up, it's part of your options in here. When you run your year end, it actually tells you you've got some checks to do there, backup and archive in the company. It lets you select that for that location of the archive there. Okay, So I hope that answers that question there for you. So with regards to the actual data and remote data access on there as well. So we've had a look at coming back into the live data, and I mentioned before that it doesn't archive. So the archive, sorry, it doesn't sync over remote data access. So if you're connected via remote data access, and you've got the archive is on a colleague's PC, there's another way that you can view them on your PC. So you can get a backup of just the archive from whoever's taken it and restore it into your 50 accounts, okay? So what they'd be doing on their PC, so on their PC where the archive is held, they're just going to take a backup of that archive. And the way to do that is just by going to File at the top and go to Backup, just as you would be taking a normal backup there. And you'll notice you've got some file options here that you can take backups of. You can unselect the data files and you can take just one of the company archives there. So I've unticked everything else. I'm just taking a backup of the archives. And this is what your colleague would be doing if they've got it on their PC and you want to see it on your PC. They're going to take a backup of the archive. I'm going to change the name on here to archive only, so I know it's just the archive on there for it. And then I can say OK to that. And you'll get a warning message just to let you know that you haven't included any data files, because normally when you're taking a backup on there, the data files are the ones that you always want backed up. So it lets you know that you haven't got those in there. But for this purpose, that's absolutely fine. We don't want the data files in there. We just want the company archive, because that means when you restore it into your program, it's just going to slot that file in alongside everything else. It's not going to overwrite anything else. It's just going to pop in that company file with the archives there. So I'll say yes to that, and it just whizzes through. Depending on how many archives you've got as well, might take a bit longer. So if you've got a lot of archives in there, it'll take a little while, but then it just means you've got access to it on your PC. And the main reason that it doesn't sync over remote data access is because if you've got your company data that's syncing all the time over remote data access, if you had the archives in there as well, and you've got, say, 10, 15 archives, that's 10 or 15 times the amount of data that it needs to sync over remote data access. And if you don't need to access your archives all the time, there's not the real need to be syncing them, because it's going to slow things down for you. So that's the main reason that they don't sync over remote data access. So I hope that part makes sense. So that's gone through fine. So we'll back that up on there. When you come to restore it on your PC, you're just going to go to File at the top. So they might need to save it in a shared location or give it to you on on a USB stick or something like that, somewhere where you can access it and pop it onto your computer there. You're going to go to Restore, and you get this window, and you're just going to browse to where that's stored on there. So I think I had mine in version 33. So if I just pop it in, have a quick look down on here. I think it was in version 3. Yep, there it is. So there it is there. So it's just my archive only. I can then highlight it, click that. I've got my connected services set up on there, so I would need to disconnect my connected services, but that's fine. I can come back and do that as well. I'm just going to say OK to that now, because the main bit that I wanted to show you is in this window here, and it tells you what you're restoring in. So normally you would have a backup and it would say data files, and it might have other things in there as well. But we can see just from this one that you're confident and you know that it's just the company archives that you're popping in there. That's all I've got. So I've just got my company archives. And at that point, I would just say OK to that. But because I've got my connected services on there for my Sage Connect, it's not going to let me actually restore that in. I could go into connected services, disconnect my Sage account. Just if you were looking and thinking, well, how do I do that on there? Disconnect it, and I can disconnect it that way. It will then let me restore it in there. So if I go back to File and Restore, drag that over, always opens on the other screen. Scroll back down, select it, click Open, there, Company Archives, and I can now click OK and it'll restore that in. Just as simple as that. And then it means you've got access to be able to just go and open those company archives like your colleague has there. Nice and straightforward. The second place that you can view the archive, and I showed you just before there, was in the year end option as well. So it will go to Tools at the top, Period End, and year end, and you've got the option within here to take that archive. Now, I say option, I would always take the archive and I wouldn't untick that, because it's far better to have the archive and not need to go into it than not have it and actually need that archive. So I would always take the archive on there. I think that possibly shouldn't be there personally, just because you should always really take that archive, especially before running that year end. But you do have the option to untick it if you wanted to. But that's your other option there as well. Now, as I mentioned earlier, access rights to be able to create an archive on there as well. So I'm logged on as manager. You can see in the bottom left tells me my username as manager. If I go and log on, or log off, I should say. So I'll log off, and I'm going to log on with the username Laura. Put that in there. So now I'm logged in as Laura. So you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, username Laura. Now, say I was going to go and take an archive, and I went to Tools, Period End, but I don't have the archive option. It's not showing in there. So I can't actually just run an archive on its own. It's still available in year end. So if I open that, because we would never want you to run a year end without having, being able to take that archive, because it's that important. But then you might not be running the year end if you've got restricted user access on there. But it's still available in that year end option. But just to run an archive, if you were clearing the audit trail, for example, that option's not there. It's also, if I go to File, if I want to open an archive, I don't have the option to open an archive on there. And that's down to my user permissions. So we'll go back in, we'll log in as manager. So I'm just going to go to File and log off. And I'm going to log back in as manager. And I'll show you where we can go to in there within the user settings. The bottom left, I'm back in as manager there. So if I go to settings at the top when I'm logged in as manager, and I'm going to go down to user management, and I'm going to click on users. And it's going to open up my list of users there for me. So I've got my manager login, and I've got my Laura login as well. So you can see we've got partial access. If I highlight Laura's login, just click edit. And I'm going to go to level of access on the left-hand side. And within here, this is where you can restrict or you can give access to certain areas within the program. It might be that you don't want somebody to see your bank accounts. You can untick that. They won't have access to it. But for this purpose, we're looking at the archive. So the first place that we can see the archive, or that we were looking at it, was in Tools. So if I scroll down and look for my Tools menu, which is here, you can see there's a little arrow so we can expand it. If I scroll down, it was in the period end option. So I'm going to open that again. So we're just following the path that we would to actually open or to create an archive. Scroll down a bit further, archive company, it's not ticked. So if I tick that, I'm going to select that. The other option was in File. When I wanted to go and have a look and open up an archive, I couldn't actually open an archive. So I'm going to go into the File menu, and we can see here, Open Company Archive is not selected. So if I tick that, that's then going to give me access. When I'm logged in as Laura, I can then access those archives. So I'm going to click Finish to that, and I'm going to click Save, and that's saved those settings. Still says partial, and that'll just be because I might have restricted access in other areas. But if I close out of here, and we'll just go and log off as manager and back on as Laura, just to show you that we can now access it on there. So I'm going to go back to Tools at the top, Period End, and I've now got that archive company option. I can click on it, I can take an archive there. So if you can't see the options for the archive, that's going to be what the issue is on there. You can take an archive in all variants, so essential, standard, professional. It's available across them all. And if we go to File, Open, I've got the option to open company archive there. And I can see all those company archives again, so they're all in there. All right, so it'll just be down to your settings that you've got for the user on there. Okay, so I'm just going to pop back to my slides there. So just to sort of summarize what we've gone over there. So your archive, it takes a read-only copy of your data. and it stores it within your data path. You open it like a separate company. So you saw there, we just go to File and Open Company, nice and easy. So it's really straightforward. You're not having to wait while it's restoring anything in. And you don't specify a date to run the archive on there either. So you're just going to take the archive, it takes it at that exact point in time. For a backup, again, it takes a copy of your data and that can be saved anywhere you wish. So you could save that on a USB stick if you wanted to. It's not restricted like the archive, where your archive saves it alongside your data path. Your backup is designed to be restored into the program over the top of your live data or as a separate company if your license allows you to do so. And once you've restored the data, you can edit and delete old or new and add new information as well. If you're going to restore over the top of live data, just make sure that you do it with caution. What I'd always say is if you're going to restore a backup in, just take a backup of what you've got there and then, because then if you restored something in error, it doesn't matter. You can just restore the data in that you had prior to doing that. So if in doubt, just take a backup. You can't really do anything wrong that way. And then the clear audit trail. So the clear audit trail is more of a process to remove older transactions to reduce the size of your data and just to keep things tidier and more organized. So for your clear audit trail, you would enter a date that you want to clear up to. For example, if you wanted to keep 6 years worth of data, you would enter a chosen date and anything before that date would be removed, given that it fits the criteria. So Michael's run through the clear audit trail recently. So we've run some webinars on that and it is just on our recordings page. So if you do want more information about the clear audit trail, that's just on there for you to watch freely as well. The link's on the slide here as well. So here's our links. So we've got archiving your company data. Basically everything goes through it all step by step, what we've covered in the guide or the webinar there for you. But sometimes it's nice to have the step by step process to refer to. You'll also get a recording of today's webinar as well. So if you think, oh, I just want to, what did you say about this? You can watch that back. You'll get that in about an hour's time via email there. But there's also a guide on there for backing up your data too. And I've popped on the Sage Help Centre link as well, just for anything else that you're looking for. It's all just in there for you as well. But from the Help Centre, you can visit our webinars. Both the live and recordings page are on there as well, so you can get to that too, along with the Sage University. So I'll keep this open a little bit longer, just to see if anything else comes through on there. Just have a quick look just to see if we've got anything else. So when you, Nikki, I can see your message there. So are the cleared transactions saved anywhere? So if you clear your audit trail, what you'd be doing before you run any sort of process where you clear records or transactions, you'd be taking a backup and you'd be taking an archive of the data. Once you've done that, then you clear the audit trail, so that clears those transactions down. But yes, you can still get back to those transactions by going back into your archive, just like we've looked at there. So just going into File and opening your company archive, all the transactions will still be in there. And you can also restore a backup in as well. So they'll all be there available in your backup. But if you've got a lot of transactions in the program, clearing them down just makes it work more efficiently there as well for you. So I hope that helps and explains things a bit there. And just to go over as well, I've popped on the link as well for our webinars page there. So like I say, all the past recordings are free to view in there, along with that clear audit trail that Michael's gone through recently as well. And signing up for our new webinars as well. You might have seen those videos as well that we play before the webinars, just letting you know what's coming up as well. So we've got bank feeds coming up, and we've also got a new invoicing badge series coming up in March as well there. We've got the Community Hub, which if you've not seen it before, it's just that online forum for Sage 50 Accounts users, just to share knowledge, swap ideas and solve problems together. Completely free to join. You can ask questions on there where other users and Sage experts get amongst it, just to sort of help and advise as well. And you can keep up to date with what's happening 24/7 on there too. There's a link on there which just takes you straight to the hub as well. And I've included again just the additional survey, which I hope you won't mind taking a look at. Just helps us shape our learning around what matters to you most. And there's a QR code on there which you can scan, but there's also a link on there as well. So if you've downloaded the slides, you can just click on the link if that's easier. But it looks like I haven't got any further questions that have come through there. So that brings us to the end of today's session. So I hope that you found it useful and you can see the benefit around taking that archive and also how it's different from taking just a regular backup. It's so easy just to access it and pop back into it if you need to review all the data that you've removed out as well. So as always, you'll get a survey when leaving today's session. I'd really love it if you could fill that in. We'll love any feedback. We'll love reading the comments too. Anything else you'd like to see or what you've enjoyed seeing today, or if you'd like to see anything done differently as well. But for now, thank you for attending and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.